During fall migration, birders flock to their favorite weedy fields in search of migratory sparrows. While there are plenty of species to see, two of the birds at the top of the list are Nelson sparrows and LeConte's sparrows. Both the Nelsons and the LeConte's are perfectly at home skulking around in tall grasses and are often only visible when flushed. Since these sparrows are quick-moving and elusive, it's important to know the key points to look for in order to make a positive ID. The first thing to keep in mind when trying to differentiate these two species is range. Nelson sparrows winter along most of the southeastern Atlantic coast. In spring, they move north along the Atlantic, as well as through the Midwest on their way to south-central Canada and the north-central U.S. LeConte's sparrows have a very similar range, but typically only winter in the Gulf Coast states, then move north into roughly the same regions as the Nelson sparrow. This means that if the bird is seen along the northern Atlantic coast, it will most likely be a Nelson's. While range can sometimes be useful in making a positive identification, most of the time these two birds will both be around, so other factors will be necessary to arrive at an accurate identification. When perched or relatively stationary, some ID points separating Nelson's and LeConte's sparrows become more evident. One such feature is the nape of the neck. The nape of a Nelson sparrow is solid gray. LeConte's sparrows have a pinkish-brown nape with noticeable chestnut streaking. This may sound like a tiny detail, but when looking at the two birds side by side, the contrast is easily visible. Some of the most striking features of the Nelson's and LeConte's sparrows are their unique colors and patterns on their faces. Both species have orange on their face, but the orange of the Nelson sparrow is deeper and darker than the LeConte's, which is lighter and brighter. Another feature to note is the brown to black marking behind the eye of both of these birds. The Nelson sparrow's eye stripe is brown, and oftentimes not as dark as the LeConte's. The LeConte's sparrow's eye stripe is very dark, and is generally more noticeable for this reason. Out of all of the distinguishing features between these two sparrows, the most reliable may be the stripe on the top of their head. Nelson sparrows have a dark gray head stripe lined in brown, while LeConte's sparrows have a much lighter white or cream-colored stripe lined in dark brown or black. Other field marks to note when trying to differentiate these species are the colors of the sides and wings. The Nelson sparrow has gray below the wing, surrounded by orange and blurry brown streaking. The wings are brownish-orange, with far less streaking than what would be seen with the LeConte's. In all, a Nelson sparrow will have a completely gray nape, a deeper shade of orange on the face, a brown and often less noticeable eye stripe, a gray head stripe, and blurry brown streaking on their sides, with gray below the wing. A LeConte's sparrow will have a striped nape, with a brighter shade of orange on the face, a more noticeable and darker colored eye stripe, a white or cream-colored head stripe, light orange sides with dark and defined streaking, and dark striping on the back and wings. These birds can be tricky to identify in the field, in large part due to their skulky and elusive nature. With these tips, it may be a bit easier to confidently determine which of these two species you are looking at. Armed with this knowledge, start checking damp, weedy fields to see if you can find one of these migratory birds. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time on Badgerland Birding.